You wake up, you look at your schedule, you glance at your to-do list, and before you even take a breath, the day is already pulling you in. Now pause. Let me ask you something. Steve Jobs asked himself every single morning, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? If the answer was no for too many days in a row, he changed something. That's not poetic. That's not motivational fluff. That's operational clarity. You see, most people don't choose their life. They inherit it. They inherit routines, careers, habits, even beliefs. And without noticing, they wake up one day loyal to a version of themselves that no longer exists. But not Steve. He disrupted his own autopilot every single morning by asking a question that cut through the noise. Would I still choose this today? That question doesn't ask, is this easy? It doesn't ask, is this fun? It asks something much deeper. Is this aligned with who I'm becoming or only who I used to be? You want focus? You want clarity? Then stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is a mood. Clarity is a standard. Most people chase the wrong things simply because they've never stopped long enough to ask the right questions. That's the power of a personal audit. It's uncomfortable, it's confronting, but it's the only way to see what actually matters and what's just muscle memory. Jobs didn't organize his life around momentum, he organized it around meaning. Because if you don't choose your day on purpose, your day will be chosen for you by habits, expectations, guilt, or comfort. So start here, not with a strategy, not with a planner. Start with a question that broke his patterns and sharpened his mind. Would I still choose this today? And if the answer is no, don't look away. Because this question is not a threat to your life. It's a mirror to your truth. And from that mirror, a deeper enemy reveals itself. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never admit. They don't stay where they are because it's working. They stay because it's familiar. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, you've already started, don't rock the boat. It tells you that tolerating mediocrity is noble, that it's mature, that it's responsible. But let me be clear, comfort never builds empires. Clarity does. Steve Jobs understood something that terrified most people. Progress demands discomfort. Every time he asked that question, would I still choose this today? He gave himself permission to break from comfort and move toward truth. That's what made him dangerous. Not just his vision, but his refusal to stay loyal to what no longer served him. Now, think about your own life. How many things are you still doing simply because you've always done them? Jobs didn't fear change. He feared misalignment. He knew that clarity isn't something you find, it's something you fight for. Because the longer you stay comfortable with what no longer fits, the blurrier your vision becomes. You forget what excellence feels like. You forget what curiosity feels like. You start to confuse familiarity with fulfillment. Most people don't burn out from doing too much. They burn out from doing too little of what actually matters. Jobs didn't wait for permission to evolve. He didn't ask, will people understand? He asked, will I regret this? That's the shift. When clarity matters more than comfort, your standards change. Your tolerance shrinks. You stop pretending that a half-lived life is better than a hard decision. So if you're still walking into rooms that drain you, if you're still clinging to titles, relationships, habits, or identities that no longer reflect who you are, ask the question again, would I still choose this today? And if the answer shakes you, good, because clarity isn't supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel honest. And once you start getting honest, you'll face the next test most people run from. Let's make something very clear. Most people aren't stuck because they don't know what to do. They're stuck because they're too afraid to stop doing what they already regret. The job they outgrew, the routine that deadens them, the partnership that dims their voice. They feel it, but they keep showing up anyway because quitting feels like failure. But Steve Jobs, he understood something far more powerful. Quitting isn't failure. Quitting is refinement. He wasn't addicted to the illusion of commitment. He was devoted to alignment, and he had the courage to walk away from anything that broke that alignment. You see, the world loves to celebrate perseverance. Never give up, they say. But let me ask you, is it noble to keep climbing a ladder if it's leaning against the wrong wall? Jobs had no interest in climbing for the sake of climbing. He wanted to build to shape, to innovate. And you cannot innovate while dragging the weight of what no longer belongs in your future. It takes courage to quit, real courage. Because when you quit something, you've spent years building a role, a path, an identity. You're not just facing change. You're facing who you are without it. That's why people stay. They'd rather feel certain in their suffering than exposed in their freedom. But not Jobs. He didn't just build products, he built standards. And his standard was this: if it no longer fits your future, let it go. Don't wait until it collapses. Don't wait until it betrays you. Don't wait until your soul feels like a stranger in your own life. You can be loyal to your potential or loyal to your past, but not both. Now, ask yourself again, would I still choose this today? If the answer is no, then you're not quitting. You're remembering who you are and what you were born to create. Because once you let go of what no longer fits, you make space for a different kind of clarity, one that isn't powered by discipline, but by decision. People think Steve Jobs had superhuman discipline. They imagine him as a monk of productivity, intensely focused, perfectly structured, immune to distraction. But that's a myth. Jobs didn't rely on discipline to stay focused. He relied on something far more powerful: decision. See, discipline is what people use when their life is full of too many options. They try to tame chaos with effort. But Jobs didn't play that game. He made decisions so clear, so final, that focus became inevitable. He wore the same outfit every day, not because he lacked creativity, but because he refused to waste clarity on the trivial. He simplified not just his wardrobe, but his team, his vision, his calendar, because he knew that every extra choice is a leak in your mind. When you truly decide what matters, you don't need as much discipline. You need fewer decisions. Think about it. How much of your focus is lost in maintenance? How much of your energy is eaten by saying yes to things you don't even remember agreeing to? Steve had a rule: if it wasn't a hell yes, it was a no. And that wasn't arrogance. It was respect. Respect for time, respect for vision, respect for the few things that actually mattered. You see, when people can't focus, they usually blame themselves. They say, I need more willpower. But what they really need is fewer options. Jobs didn't aim to do everything. He aimed to do one thing brilliantly. And here's the shift. Focus is a byproduct of elimination. It's not about resisting everything. It's about removing what doesn't belong in your line of sight. If you're constantly distracted, it's not because you're weak. It's because you haven't decided what's worth being strong for. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he eliminated 70% of the company's product line, not because the products were bad, but because they weren't essential. That's how greatness works. It's not built by doing more. It's built by choosing less and going deeper. So ask yourself again, would I still choose this today? This project, this path, this priority? Because once you've made the right decision, focus stops being a fight. It becomes who you are. And from that depth, you're finally ready to face the question that shaped his life and will now shape yours. This isn't just a clever question. It's a mirror. And most people are afraid to look into it. Would I still choose this today? Not 10 years ago. Not when it felt exciting. Not because it pays the bills. Today, would I still choose this relationship, this career, this version of myself? Steve Jobs used this question like a scalpel, not to destroy, but to reveal, to expose the invisible contracts we sign with yesterday's choices long after we've outgrown them. Because here's what you must understand. The soul doesn't lie. It knows when you're performing instead of living. It knows when your path has become a performance. It knows when your loyalty has turned into limitation. And it will whisper every morning with more and more urgency. Would you still choose this today? See, your brain wants routine, but your spirit wants truth. And this question, it reintroduces you to the truth, whether you're ready or not. Now listen carefully. This isn't about reckless change. It's not about quitting your job or blowing up your life because of a bad week. It's about reclaiming authority over what you're building. Because every day You keep saying yes to something you've outgrown, you're also saying no to the version of you that's trying to emerge. Jobs didn't just ask this question as a morning ritual. He used it as a life filter. If the answer was no, too often he made moves. Not dramatic ones, decisive ones. That's the difference between people who live intentionally and people who just survive their schedule. So I'll ask you again, as he did, would you still choose this today? If not, don't panic. But don't pretend either, because your silence is not neutrality. It's agreement. You're not a tree. You're not stuck. You're not obligated to stay where your spirit is shrinking. What you choose today becomes your future. So choose it with eyes open. Choose it with a clean heart. And if something no longer belongs, let it go with honor. That's not failure. That's wisdom. And that's how legacies are built, one honest decision at a time.